Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I could not be more excited. We are going to be diving into our updated 2023 Dynasty running back rankings. We're including rookies. I'm going to go 12, 13 guys deep. We did this about a month ago, but it was just the cornerstone guys, just guys drafted last year and this year. But no, we're going to be looking at everyone. So we'll have veterans like Christian McCaffrey. But what I want to do is look at the veterans first and then add the rookies into this list at the end of the video. So make sure you stay for that. But before we get into it, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty. And I am so excited to let you know that we are going to have an official free bet on Underdog Fantasy for this year's Super Bowl. You have Jalen Hurts at more than less than half a total yard. Make sure you're taking advantage of this when you also sign up for Underdog with the link in the comment section, the link in the description, and use promo code FLOCK. They're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100, and you are going to get our 2023 Dynasty rankings with a minimum of a $10 deposit. So deposit $10, immediately have 20 in your account, get our Dynasty rankings for free, and then throw $20 for Jalen Hurts to have more than half a total yard. Find the link in the comment section. Should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into these rankings. Like I said, we're going to add on the rookies at the end of the video. But let's start it off with Breece Hall at 1. Now, with Breece Hall, I've gone back and forth here. I mean, I was reluctant to put him this high early on in the offseason because I've made the mistake of going through and valuing these running backs coming off a torn ACL too high. I mean, if we're going to be looking at someone like J.K. Dobbins this past season, I drafted the hell out of J.K. Dobbins in redraft leagues. Clearly, he wasn't ready. We're looking at Saquon Barkley 2 seasons ago. I thought that he was going to be the best buy low candidate you could find, and we are an offseason too early. So I think I'm going to have to be a little bit more relaxed with these players coming off torn ACLs, and I shouldn't go all the way in on them. But with Breece Hall, the man checks every single box. The second we had the NFL Combine and got his official testing numbers combined with his size, his collegiate profile, that second, I deemed him a top 5 Dynasty running back, even though I believe his DLF ADP at the time was around running back 20. In our prospect model, he literally compared to guys like Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Jonathan Taylor as prospects. And his rookie season, I mean, what was most impressive in my opinion is if we are going to go through and look at the targets per game. First week, 9, 1, 11, 6, 2, 2. The man had 218 receiving yards through the first 6 games of his NFL career. At one point, the only running back that was ahead of him in total targets was Austin Eckler. He's an elite passing down running back. He's an elite running back. I think the Jets offense can only get better as well if they're able to go through and bring in an Aaron Rodgers, bring in a Derek Carr. Anything's going to be better than the combo of Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White that they saw this past season. So I'm going to have Breece Hall at 1, even though I feel like we need to be a little bit slower to the party than we've been in years past with these running backs coming off a torn ACL. And at 2, we're going to be going with Jonathan Taylor. I mean, with JT, not too much to discuss. It was a horrible season. I mean, we shouldn't have been taking Jonathan Taylor at number 1 overall, which we were in redraft leagues. I'll be the first person to admit it. And I had him as my Dynasty running back 1, even though, I mean, hell, we were ahead of it. We said that Matt Ryan was going to be a bum. We said that everybody was drafting the hell out of Michael Pittman for no reason. But for whatever reason, I thought that Jonathan Taylor would be able to overcome the bad offense. He wasn't able to. It was disgusting. But still, if we're going to look at this, let's see how many games you have total. If we're going to remove the Minnesota Vikings game where you left with the ankle injury, I mean, I believe we're sitting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games with 192 carries. So you're averaging about 20 carries a game. At the same time, the man had 40 targets out of the backfield. I mean, he was an elite prospect in 2020, one of the best collegiate running backs of all time at Wisconsin. He was the running back 1 overall in his 2nd season in the NFL. So I think you're really just betting that the Indianapolis Colts offense is going to get better. Keep in mind, it's a running back that literally just turned 24. So I'm fine having JT here. And then last but not least in this same tier, we're going to be going with Kenneth Walker. Now with Kenneth Walker, what I was most impressed about year 1, while we knew he was going to be a great running back on 1st and 2nd down, and he was actually my 2nd most drafted running back behind Josh Jacobs in redraft leagues this past season, I was surprised to see the involvement as a pass catcher. He actually had 35 targets this past year, which, I mean, if we're going to look at his 35 targets in an offense that, I mean, at the end of the day, usually doesn't throw to their running backs too much, this is way more than I ever thought that we were going to get. Keep in mind, I mean, you had Rashad Penny early on in the season as the starting running back. They were operating in a committee, but still, if we're looking at, I mean, his best season ever as a receiver in college, he's walking away with 13 receptions for 89 receiving yards. So I knew Walker was going to be great from a first and second down standpoint. We had that with his college profile. We saw the athleticism. We saw the size. But he really showed that he can actually go out there and not turn into Austin Eckler, not turn into Christian McCaffrey, but get the job done when it comes to getting targeted out of the backfield. But now we're going to drop a tier below and go over to Travis Etienne at 5. With Etienne, what's interesting is obviously it seems like he is incredibly young. Travis Etienne's a first real season in the NFL after missing his rookie year. But we do have to remember that Travis Etienne is a running back that actually stayed all 4 years at Clemson. He didn't need to. I don't know why he did it, but hell, he did. So Travis Etienne's actually already 24. Like, if we're going to be comparing this to someone like Jonathan Taylor, who seems like he's been in the NFL forever now, if we're pulling this up, they are identical ages, literally within like a month of each other. So while Travis Etienne seems like he'd be a lot younger, he's not in reality, but this Jacksonville Jaguars offense is way more exciting than I ever thought it was going to be. Travis Etienne profiles to be the Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift type guy that we've been talking about since he came out of Clemson. He's going to get involved in the red zone and draw targets out of the backfield. So I really like Etienne. Now, going down to our next guy, we're going to go Saquon Barkley, who is either going to get a long-term extension in New York, or at the end of the day, he's probably just going to get hit with the franchise tag. I mean, at least I think that's what makes the most sense here. But with Saquon Barkley, we were just a year too early betting on him 2 off seasons ago. That's why I'm a little worried about Breece Hall, as we already mentioned, just trying to nail the buy low on the running back the year after the torn ACL. Took Saquon Barkley 2 years to come back fully, but hell, he was able to do it. Keep in mind, this New York Giants offense arguably had the worst receiving core in the NFL, with pretty much everybody going down for them. It's either them or the Chicago Bears. Yet with that, Saquon Barkley was still able to have over 1,600 total yards. Saquon Barkley still had 10 rushing touchdowns. So if the offense gets better year 2 with the new coaching staff, you add in some wide receivers so that you can pick up more first downs, more trips to the red zone, you may actually have a higher ceiling with Saquon Barkley. Let's go over to 7, where we have Christian McCaffrey. I know this is going to be lower than where most people have McCaffrey. I mean, Sleeper actually has him, I believe, as the running back 1 off the board in Dynasty leagues, which I just can never get behind. With CMC is almost the exact opposite of what we were talking about with Travis Etienne, where you'd assume that he is a little bit older than he actually is. With Christian McCaffrey, came in and started dominating right away as a top 10 draft pick in 2017 to the Carolina Panthers. So if you're thinking, oh, Christian McCaffrey's been around since 2017 at the top of the NFL, he must be a million years old. He's actually only 26. So with Barkley, if you're drafting like on Underdog in a redraft league, he's the clear running back 1 overall. I'm just going to be a little bit more hesitant to put him at that high of a spot, knowing that this is Dynasty. We're looking at long-term outlook, so we're going to be a little bit more patient. But dropping down to our next tier, our next guy is Josh Jacobs, where Jacobs is very young, drafted in 2019. Actually, the youngest running back in that draft class was drafted at 20 years old coming out of Alabama. And with Josh Jacobs, my most drafted player this past season in redraft, we may or may not won $150,000. Not sure if you heard, but the man did everything. 340 carries. 64 targets out of the backfield. The man had over 2,000 total yards. Could not get better for Jacobs, but I would be very surprised if the Las Vegas Raiders move on from Josh Jacobs. I think what's probably going to happen is they either give him a long-term deal or franchise tag him, just like what we were talking about with Saquon Barkley. And I think this Raiders team is going to be horrible next year. I mean, if we're looking at it, I'm not a big Derek Carr fan in the slightest, but unless you end up getting like Aaron Rodgers over, you're probably going to have a quarterback downgrade. I mean, if I'm going to go through and try to find NFL win totals for this next season, I mean, it's difficult at this point, but you would have to assume that you probably end up with the Raiders as the worst team in that division. I mean, if we're going to pull this up right now, The Raiders, I can't find their win total, but they're at plus 5,000 as, yeah, the worst team in the division. I think it's going to be a bad offense, probably worse than it was this past season. Jacob's going to be another year older. I like him. Obviously won us a lot of money this past season, but he's also a lot more expensive this offseason than he was a year ago. Now, at 10, we are going to go with another veteran. I'm going to be going with Austin Eckler. Eckler drafted back in 2017, but the difference between Eckler and Christian McCaffrey is they came into the NFL at a different age. So with Eckler, he's actually a little bit older. Eckler was the running back 1 overall in fantasy this past season. Obviously, won people their fantasy football championships. And I would say at the same time, Eckler's game's probably going to age a lot better than what we have with some other players in that same draft class. Because if we are being fair to Eckler, at the end of the day, this will be a running back that, is deriving the majority of his value off of high value touches. He doesn't need to see 20 plus touches in a game to be effective. He just needs to see the 10 targets out of that backfield, which he had clearly this past season. The future of Keenan Allen in Los Angeles maybe is a little bit shaky. So it's an interesting spot with Eckler where from a redraft perspective in a full PPR format, you have to be so optimistic. But from a dynasty perspective, it's a little bit harder with the age. Now at 11, we're going to go DeAndre Swift. Now with Swift, an elite talent running behind an elite offensive line, you want to believe that he can be the new age Austin Eckler where he is heavily involved as a pass catcher, where he does get involved in the red zone. You have no Jamal Williams under contract this next season, but if I'm pulling up the DeAndre Swift game log, and keep in mind, yes, DeAndre Swift dealt with a multitude of injuries this past season. If DeAndre Swift managed to stay healthy and this was his output, trust me, he would be way lower in these rankings. But DeAndre Swift, 99 carries. He had 3 games with 10 or more carries. DeAndre Swift did manage to get 70 targets out of the backfield, which obviously is his strong suit. You're obviously drafting DeAndre Swift in that full PPR format, hoping that he maintains this level of involvement as a pass catcher. It's probably going to go up. I really like DeAndre Swift, the player. It's hard to ignore how they used him in the red zone this past season, which they really didn't. Now, going over to our next guy, we're going to go Javonte Williams at 12. So with Javonte Williams, kind of in a similar spot to what you have with a Breece Hall, where you're coming off the torn ACL. You look pretty good before it. Good. You look good on film, but the offense was so damn bad that at the end of the day, you had your best game ever of 75 rushing yards on the year. I kind of view Javonte Williams as a worse talent than Breece Hall, and an offense that's going to be about the same, a little bit older than Breece Hall as well. So if we're going to get a worse version, older version of him, you're obviously going to have to get a significant discount. What's nice is the Denver Broncos have no assets going forward. They give all the money that's ever been printed to Russell Wilson. I'm surprised that there's any dollar left in circulation after that contract. On top of this, you trade every pick to get Russell Wilson / Sean Payton. So we know that Javonte Williams is probably not going to see any increased competition this next season. The job is going to be his. I don't know. It's a tough spot. Now, 13, we're going to go Ramondre Stevenson. If the Patriots don't bring anybody else in, Ramondre Stevenson's going to move up these rankings. Ramondre Stevenson this past year looked like what we wanted DeAndre Swift to be. Ramondre Stevenson at points was the leading receiver for the New England Patriots. He was phenomenal. Damian Harris is not under contract this next season, but I just want to put a slight discount on any New England Patriot running back, just because while we want to sit here and say, okay, Ramondre Stevenson's going to be the full-blown 3-down starter. He is going to be a dominant player this next season. At least he should be. You never know what Bill Belichick's going to do. But let's add the rookies in here, and let's go over and add Bijan Robinson to the #1 overall spot. Now, keep in mind, hook 'em horns. I'm a UT alumni, so of course I'm going to be going through rooting for our guy and very biased here. But at the end of the day, I see a running back that is arguably going to step into the NFL and be one of the best passing down running backs the league has to offer. Not only is he going to have that receiving skill set, which you can find with other running backs, but what you can't find with those other running backs that have that receiving skill set is the size Bijan Robinson possesses. This is going to allow him to have 25, 30 touches in individual games at the NFL level. For that reason, I don't see any hesitation. If you wanted to put someone else at 1, I'll be fine with it. But the lowest you can have Bijan Robinson's going to be at 4, the last spot in this tier. Now, looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, this can be a running back that definitely falls down these rankings. I am always more willing to be early on rookie running backs rather than late to the party, whereas at quarterback, wide receiver, I'm fine being late to the party. I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs at 8. I know that's probably a little bit aggressive here, but at the end of the day, if I'm going to be looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, he's probably one of the best passing down running backs coming in. It is really going to come down to the official size numbers that we get at the NFL Combine. Obviously, it's difficult to know what the size is by looking just at the TV screen. You can't trust any of the numbers Alabama gives you, or really any college program, to be honest. So we're going to have to sit here and wait for the NFL Combine to get those official testing results. I really hope that he's not as small as someone like James Cook, because obviously if that will be the case, then you are going to be in a very, very difficult spot. But if y'all don't remember, I mean, a few years back, everybody was panicking when it came to Travis Etienne with his size. Ended up not being a problem at the NFL Combine. So that's going to be the #1 thing that we need to be looking for. But I think that should be about it. If y'all enjoyed this video, please go down there, drop a like, subscribe if you play Dynasty. Make sure that you are going and checking out this player prop on Underdog Fantasy for the Super Bowl. When you sign up and use promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100, and you're going to get our 2023 Dynasty rankings. But thank you again. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you with the video tomorrow.